You can probably identify yourself with the situation that you are like setting yourself some deadline, and then this deadline passes and you are like still working on a project, and you subconsciously know that the project is like like in 25% done, but you wanted to rush it in like in your deadline, which was unrealistic, right? um, and and this is this conflict many people stumble upon when they start doing projects. They start to make deadlines uh, that are um, manifestation of their dreams, right? But they aren't realistic, because they when they set deadline, when I can identify with myself, right? When I was setting a deadline, I was just and setting in my mentality. I want to do it in like 2 weeks, in a week, in a day. I want to do it in this period of time, etc., etc. And this is harmful, and you can be like, like, is it harmful? I am just wanting to stretch my limits, right? Okay, yeah, you can stretch your limits, and this is actually a very good thing to do, to stretch your limits, because you actually know what can you do. But the thing is, if you are trying to stretch your limits all the time, you won't do any progress, because you will be testing all the time new things, right? And when you do it, you will start to stagnate, basically, because testing and generally setting a hypothesis is something that needs your dedication. And the moment you don't dedicate yourself to it, it dies. And when a hypothesis dies, it often people think, okay, this wasn't working. No, it was working. Maybe it was working. I don't know. Maybe it was working, but you haven't tested it enough. And if you haven't tested enough, you can't say it didn't work, right? Like, it is the same thing that if you are doing, I know, cooking, and if you don't repeat enough, like how to cook, say some basic stuff, right? If you don't repeat and try again, you won't actually learn it. The same thing with the gym. So when you are always trying to push your limits with deadlines, you are basically a self-harming yourself, because it doesn't allow you to, first of all, like, realistically know how much time you need to do right now, not how much time you will need to in the future when it will be better, but right now, how much time it costs you to do X, say developing a website. And many people that are quote unquote stretching their limits with their deadlines aren't actually doing the second thing, which is very important. They aren't doing conservative, like pro pre pre um, pre-planning way of setting deadlines. So they set deadlines that are, they say they don't set deadlines at all, and they don't think at all about generally being realistic, so they know when they will, in a normal pace, get to their goal. So if they don't know it, then they are basically in a constant delusion. Why? Because when you don't know when you would typically end your activity, you don't know when you progress. So you are, first of all, so you are doing a pushing limits thing, and then after pushing the limits, you are basically unaware of progress, because you don't know what was your previous like baseline, right? And you only know what your previous baseline was if you met previous deadline goal, and if you didn't, then well, you're screwed up. So that's the important distinction many people don't understand. Planning is a tool, and as any tool, we need to use it wisely. I need to use it wisely. I need to use the tools wisely I have. So I need to get their full potential. If I can, of course, use planning for expanding my limits, but I can also use planning for actually knowing and like calculating the costs of doing some project. They're like, you can all the time try to like break through the current cap of your performance, but destroying your limits is the hardest thing you can do, and it will take you the most amount of time, and research is the most unpredictable thing you can do. So in setting deadlines that are imaginative is something that is research driven, so it is highly unpredictable. We don't know if you will do it or not, and you even don't know it. You even don't know if you will be able to achieve this deadline and actually deliver. So this is important, because when you don't set deadlines that you are able to deliver, you actually end up in a state of constant delusion, where you don't know where you're standing on, and you don't use full potential of planning, and you don't actually you don't actually have any predictability in your process. So your process is highly volatile, and you can't do you can't deliver results. At the end of the day, the results matter, not if you deliver it under a deadline. Of course, if the delivery under a deadline is a part of the result, right, it matters. But often, most times, it doesn't matter if you are smart enough to set a deadline, and you need to have capital to like test new deadlines. So if you don't have enough capital, and I mean capital time, right? If you don't have enough time to test new deadlines, and I mean by enough time, you have another sources of income or another sources of like generating value for others that are not tied with your time, then you can do absolutely research on your deadlines. But if you don't, then well, you are basically gambling your time, and gambling is inherently random. So you and gambling, if in terms of research, is very, very unlucky for you, because research is depending of course on the field, needs many iterations and huge amounts of time. Of course, it can provide massive results if done correctly, but it won't provide you results to deliver those results via research, right? So to perform research, you need to have some money to burn, or time to burn through to be able to deliver it. So make sure and I am making sure that when I am setting my deadlines, I am actually aware if I am researching my deadline ability, or I am actually trying to deliver and have actually decent results. See you in the next one.